The difference is going and arguing with them, like, it shouldn't be 100%.
that
There's weighted, it should be
almost
so.
so in
that
my experience,
is-
when I was in the health business,
They'll show you all, they'll show you. Might be in high school.
Good job, gentlemen. Thank you. All right.
Okay, we're gonna open up the meeting at 6:20. Sorry about the delay. We call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda.
I'd make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion?
The only thing I would add is, under discussion of the elementary schools, if we could include, two guests under discussion, in case they have any input, John Dillon and Tim Lavoy. They're both Board of Selectmen members, as we all know. They're both, potentially, one of them is gonna end up as a member of this board. And I just feel if there's any input under that discussion, I would like to hear it from them, so I wouldn't want to not have them commenting on something if it came up in the meeting. So I would like to invite them as guests under the discussion of the facilities in case they have a question.
Any objections to that?
No.
Nope. It's a good idea. All right, fair enough. Approval of the minutes,
So all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Approve the meeting minutes from 1/9/25.
Make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from January 9th, 2025.
I'll second.
Seconded.
Oh,
Any discussion on that?
Check.
Jen.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Paul, can I add one thing I just noticed? I'm listed as a member of the committee on the bottom. I've resigned from that committee, so just as a small note. I'm ex officio, but not.
Right.
So.
Okay, public comment?
Beth Anderson, 44 West Cotton Hill Road. I just wanted to, two issues. First, I want to make sure that everybody's keeping an open mind and looking for other sources of funding for the school improvement projects. I don't know what Friar Architecture is aware of, if they have any suggestions on groups we could collaborate with for applying for like a 2025 Renew America's School Prize through, it was the U.S. Department of Energy that's looking for schools to leverage local dollars to support, get local funding, state funding to support, leverage federal dollars, something like that. You bring money, they bring money, all good. I don't think it says you can't bring state money to the table. The other thing is, it would be really helpful for some of us in the public to understand the difference between the capital improvements and operational expenses, strategic improvements. Where does the difference between ongoing maintenance for the schools versus fixing them come in? That it's a little bit confusing for some of us. Thank you.
Anybody else, public comment? Yeah. Guys have anybody over there on Zoom? Okay, next, thing, let's see, we go to discussion on elementary facility needs and potential consolidation ongoing. I'm going to, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Mike, if you could come up, I think we were gonna.
Do you want to invite Tim and
Yeah. Up to the table? Yeah. You guys want to come up? Yeah. You stay there, you can get up there. So I get you guys did some walkthrough, I guess, the other day. I
yes,
apologize, I didn't make it, I didn't see the second part.
it was cold.
Cold.
It was cold.
You can bring us up to speed on where we are so far. We were talking about, I think, Gildersleeve and stuff, right?
Yeah, make a presentation for it.
So we want to go with the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna, is there like a portable microphone so I can go up there and point and click, because I can't see the numbers from here. My eyes failed a couple of years ago.
Take that cord out from under the carpet.
Just walk it up.
Oh,
It's plenty long enough, Mike. It's a whole pile of cord behind you.
It's under the podium.
You passed the test. You got the wire out from under that leg. You got the job.
No,
Good.
I would have taken it out. Was engineer. And have it design it.
so like for my Vegas days. So Mike Serrano with Friar Architecture. Again, thank you for bringing us on board for tonight. So the first question that was answered was, where were we this past week? What did we get accomplished? We worked with, we met over at this Gildersleeve School. I wanted to bring the cost estimators over there to get a feel for the condition of the building. They have the report that we did. It's filled with photographs and commentary and things like that. But I wanted them to get eyes on the building, and we wanted to see if there was any changes since the last time we walked through. Nice to report that squishy wet field was nice and hard this week. So I just explained to them about some of the water problems so that we can talk about getting the water off the site before it gets underneath that slab and starts popping tiles on us and stuff like that. There's some over in what would be the new addition. The tiles aren't faring as well as the old ones. And that's a commentary on how good those old glues are that we can no longer use. But so we walked through the building. They've got a good feel for it. Bryce and I are working through the scenarios that you gave us to get you the cost estimates, which we promised to get to you for the next meeting. So tonight for the agenda, they asked us to talk about the existing conditions of the schools where they are right now. We brought along, this isn't newly generated information. This is stuff that was presented to the last committee that I'll represent for you guys, and it'll give us some good talking points for tonight's discussion. I thought it would work out pretty well. So, yeah, so if you go to the next slide. So this was just, we started in 2021, doing the facility analysis of all the schools. It was in addition to the Gordian report, which was conducted the year before. And we were looking at building envelope, mechanical systems, interior finishes, code compliance, accessibility. And then, if you saw the big report, which is a couple of 100 pages, it breaks every individual school down. And then we worked our way into what if scenarios. We started with 3, and we ended up with about 15. So I'm going to show you a sample of how we work through those scenarios and the existing conditions that led to the decision making, as it were. So I put this slide in here just because it's impossible to talk about the condition of the school and how to repair it without talking about what is an eligible cost and what is an ineligible cost. And I don't mean to keep bringing up the administrative side of school construction, but your reimbursement rate being 50%, I have to keep having that discussion so that everybody really digests what is what is the local cost to you, what affects your taxes locally, and what the state is paying, which is a different tax pool. So, so any of these forms that you want to have access to, you just go to the state DAS website, look under school construction grants. All of these SCG forms are all available. It's long-winded, long reading. I've been looking at them for a long time, so I'll give you guys the abbreviated version. You can go in and take a look afterwards. So ineligible costs, I'm going to keep bringing it up as we talk about the condition of the school, because one of the conditions of your schools is that you're oversized. So, eligible costs and ineligible costs first starts with what is your reimbursement rate? Your reimbursement rate when we did this study was 51%. It goes up and down a little bit every year. I think they were anticipating maybe 52%. If you do a really deep dive, you'll see that in the end, there are other pieces of the grant available on top of this, but you don't get access to those until after the project is in audit. So they want to know that you're really running a full day K program. You get an extra 1% on top of your grant. If you're a lighthouse school, if you're in a specific needs district, so there's different ways to add on to that 51%. But for now, you're at 51% of eligible costs. And I keep bringing up eligible costs because we're going to work through that when you're doing alterations versus renovations versus new construction. Different numbers apply. And just quickly, I just wanted to mention that other grants. This is something, it's a great question, something to put in everybody's mind. When you're getting a state grant for a project, they're giving you 50% of the money. So say it's a $10 million project, you get $5 million from the state. And then we decide we're going to go to Eversource and get another $1 million to put a solar array on the roof. The state will take that money right off of your grant. It has to be completely separate from your school construction project. Any grant has to be a separate grant during your school construction project. Otherwise, there's a line in your grant application that says, what are your sources of money? So your source of money is a bond, it's local taxes, it's wherever general fund, wherever it's coming from. But if you're getting it from another grant, that comes right off of your grant. So everybody just keep that in mind as we work through it. So if you want to put solar and you want to get a separate grant, we can design the building prepared for solar. We close out the project and then you put solar on after. That's how you work that concept. Okay. All right. So what these pages are, and you'll see these in the report. These are the space standard calculations. Your existing conditions of your school is that you're overbuilt. You're overbuilt by about 100%. The way they calculate it essentially is they give a square foot per size of the student. So if you're grade pre-K to 5, you get 125 square foot per student. You go to grade 6 to 8, it's 150 square foot per student, and it's like 175 square foot per student for high school kids. And you can see how that works. I mean, you have science labs in high school, you have bigger gymnasiums, they're bigger. So you get more square foot. So they calculate eligible square footage. Pretty simple math. So we right out of the gate, when we were doing the original study, calculated your space standards where you were in what your current situation was. So we put it together on, and again, this is in that report. You can see your grades, your enrollments, your current square footages, what the state allows. When I say allow, it doesn't mean they're allowing you that square footage or not. They're just reimbursing you as an eligible cost. You can make the school as big or as different as you want, but you have to pay out of your own pocket. Portland has to pay out of their own pocket for anything above these numbers. Okay. So as you can see, your current in 2022, you were 173,000 square feet over the allowable square footage. So, and I think you can kind of see that. And the way they calculate it is they use the highest enrollment over 8 years, the highest enrollment projection for an 8-year period. We get enrollment projections from Dr. Prouda. There's a few other sources, but they're all pretty much do it the same way. The highest projected enrollment up through 2031, you're still overbuilt by 167,000 square feet. I think you had mentioned at the last meeting that your enrollment is flat. This says that your enrollment's flat, and that you're overbuilt. So when you apply for a grant, you're going to take your reimbursement rate is 50%. It's going to drop to 25% because you're overbuilt. Existing condition of your school. And this is really for me, because I'm a graphic person, this is the graphic version of what I just explained. So you've got Gildersleeve you're almost there. This is where you are in your 7 to 12 school. There's Valley View and there's Brownstone. So you can keep this in mind graphically. This kind of plays out to square footage. So as I mentioned, we had been brought on board to do 3 scenarios. And from those 3 scenarios, we ended up with 3A, 3B, 3C, 3-1A, 5A. So this was the last grouping of scenarios prior to the vote. And what this really was, you know, in this one here, we were looking at closing Brownstone, closing Gildersleeve, just doing the capital improvements at the Portland Secondary School, and Valley View was going to be renovated as new. There was a listing of the cost locally and the cost of the town and the cost, how much the state was going to reimburse you. When we did this, and you'll see this in the report, when we did this, we were using $750 a square foot for renovation across the board. We weren't working with an ed spec and a precise job. We were looking at a comparative analysis of job to job, so we can get an idea of which scenario is going to be really expensive and reimbursed, eligible costs, ineligible costs, and which ones are going to be the cheaper way to go. Once we got it honed down to a couple of scenarios, the board wrote ed specs, and then we did cost estimates based on the ed specs. So high level budgets, and then they were really budgets too, but they were high level budgets because we really went through with a fine tooth comb and as if we were designing the school to get a real number. So you can see so in this, you can see all the different scenarios and the cost comparisons. And all we were really looking at is how much is the overall project cost and how much is the cost to the town? Because they varied considerably based on how many square feet we were overbuilding, how much work we were doing on the school, and what type of project we were doing. Okay. So then we were also looking at this time at the capital improvements as one of the scenarios has us doing capital improvements because we were still looking at the Gordian report at this point to what that was doing. So we had the Gordian report and we had their costs of the different features of it. And what we did is we applied they had give us a flat number. We had to escalate it to when we were going to do the different phases of the work. They broke it out into a 3-year, a 5-year, and an 8. You're going to do it 8 years out. So if we were doing it in 1 year, we didn't apply escalation to it. If we were doing it in this window, we applied this much escalation to it. If we were doing it in this, we applied this much escalation to it. This was all part of the calculation in the spreadsheet. We had spreadsheet wars going on at the office and everybody's good at them. So we figured out what it would cost to stretch the project out over the amount of time it was going to actually take to do the projects. So we came up with an estimated project cost, and we also applied state reimbursement to how much each one of those capital improvement projects would cost with state reimbursement. So we came up with this. Okay. So I wanted to show you how we got to these numbers, and then this is where we were. So we were looking at, this is just a straight up CIP. Got the Brownstone, Gildersleeve, Valley View, and the secondary schools all calculated. This was going to be the capital improvement expenditure through 23. We're obviously beyond that now, but showing you the example. 24 to 27, 28 through 30. The total cost of the project, 13.3 million. The eligible costs, the ineligible costs, and I went through the same exact thing. I went through square footage ineligibility. I went through type of project. These were going to be, a lot of these were maintenance projects, so most of them were ineligible. Then I figured out the cost of the state and the cost of the town. So at this point in 2022, we were looking at the CIPs cost to the town. Now this includes the secondary school of $35 million and a cost to the state of $8.7 million. If you take away the secondary school, the cost for the 3 elementary schools at this point was $26 million to do the CIPs over a course of 10 years. $26 million locally. And then it'll be, the state was going to reimburse $5.5 million. So that's about where that landed at that point. So the question that you really asked was, what is the existing conditions of the school? So we did it kind of an exhaustive look at the schools, and I'm just going to give you a short little abbreviated version of it. So here's Gildersleeve, a single-story building, 47,800 square feet. Built in 1964. A lot of good things were built in 1964. One addition in 1991. And the overall condition, we considered it to be fair. For its age. Okay. Here's the floor plan layout, and this is just color coded to show the different curriculum that's going on in the school. So as you would expect for a 61-year-old building, it's showing deterioration. There's nothing that you would condemn this school by any stretch of the imagination. But it's if you look beyond just the pure aesthetics, some of the things that you'll notice is, the chipped brick, which is probably a vehicle incident, but the building really needs to be repointed, not an eligible cost. Needs to be cleaned up. A lot of these window sills need to be, there's a lot of rust on them. They need to be cleaned up and repainted, but the windows are very, very low performing windows. They need to be replaced, and the caulk is more than likely something that is going to be, you're going to have protected workers taking it out, and it's likely bleeding into the bricks. You can see the roof needs to be replaced. You're doing a great job keeping that building dry, considering the condition of this roof. This roof is pretty old. I think the one thing that sticks out to me in this school would be to renovate this school. Would be an over 50% of the school being renovated, which would kick in a building code that would require us to meet the energy code. So these walls of this building have 0 insulation in them. They're probably an R value of 4, at best. So what we would have to do throughout this entire school, and this is the same with Valley View, is we'd have to build an interior wall, insulate that wall, and sheetrock it to get the R value that we're going to need to meet the energy code.
That's if we renovate to new, Mike.
That's if you pull a building code to do this project.
If you go over 50% of the, explain that to me.
If you, so the existing building code states that there's 3 levels. There's alteration level 1, alteration level 2, and alteration level 3. If you don't use the existing building code, you have to use the state building code, the international building code, which says that you need to meet the energy code, bring the whole thing up to code.
No, I get all that.
I know, but under the exit, so we have our choice of picking 1 or 2 of the codes. So we're going to choose the existing building code. In the existing building code, you have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. Level 2 states that if you renovate more than 50% of the building, you need to meet the energy code.
Right. And if we do the repairs listed that are needed, we wouldn't hit that threshold, but if we did renovate to new, we would. Is that?
That is
fair assessment?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's
because all these things trigger.
Yep.
Further, and I just want to make sure we have it.
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
And if I may, you said 3 different square footages for Gildersleeve.
I did.
You did. So the first night you said 46,000. Tonight you said 47,800 in one of them, and then one of the presentations you had 42. Which is it? What's the exact square footage of that building? Only because this presentation has shown 2 different square footage. I want to know the exact.
That's because your building has 2 different square footages.
Okay, walk me through that.
All right. So there is the construction building square footage, and there's the reimbursable building square footage.
I just want to know the physical, every square foot we own at that building. And when you go through it, I want to know that.
Okay, but just so you know, the state reimburses on net square footage, which is the inside of the exterior walls, and your building square footage is the outside of the outside walls.
All right. So which one do you want to give me? We can stay consistent. What's easier for you? Do you have-
What I just presented tonight is easier, and we'll try to stay consistent with that.
Two tonight on this slide. The
Okay.
second one was 47,800. And then in the beginning of the slide, it was a different number. It was 46.
47.
So I don't know which one we're
Yeah.
going with.
You got me at a spot where I
I'm
have to
not trying
say,
play- I just
yep,
want to.
yep, I'm
I'm
gonna,
not trying to call you out.
yep,
I
no,
wanna get a
it's
handle on
good.
each building.
I understand completely. I will make sure that we have that cleaned up for you.
Nope.
Yep.
I won't interrupt you for a little bit.
No. This is supposed to be interactive. I just don't have the information in front of me to clean that up for you. So where was I? All right. So the international, the existing building code requires if you do more than 50% renovation, which If you replace your HVAC system, triggers 50%. So if we do the your HVAC system over, which you have to, it's going to trigger that anyway.
Don't they go by dollar amount?
They do not.
What do they go by?
Square foot of the building that's being renovated.
So how could the,
The whole room has ductwork in it, so they consider the whole room. This it's a negotiation you can have with your local building official, but my understanding of it is when you do redo the HVAC system, you have to bring the building up to energy code.
I don't believe that.
Makes, huh?
I don't believe that to be the case. It's based on either dollar amount or square
Oh,
foot.
my God.
It's not,
Square foot you're touching is what kicks that off.
there's no way that it hits 50% of the building.
The HVAC system?
Yeah.
The entire building is air conditioned and heated.
It has trunk lines and so on, but it's not 50%.
Okay, well, we can tell, I'm happy to sit down with your local building official and have that discussion with you. I don't consider that an issue. So, 50% of the building kicks off the international, the requirement to meet the energy code. Your building will be designed. The size of your HVAC system that goes in there will be designed specifically on that envelope that it's heating. So if your walls are R2, R4, R6, just, I don't know what it is. I didn't calculate it, but these walls are paper thin. Your roof has probably 15 to 20% of the roof insulation that's in there compromised, meaning that water has infiltrated it and it has zero value. So you've got no roof on there at all. So we replaced the roof. We put in a new HVAC system. The system is going to be oversized if you decide to leave that envelope in those windows. The act of renovating is a homogeneous act. You know, you do the whole thing or you don't. Yes, sir.
One of the priorities we talked about was becoming more energy efficient. How much more energy efficient, how much more long-term savings in terms of heating the building would you get with new windows, energy efficient walls and new roof?
I don't have the number because that is a mathematical equation. But we're not going to be able to do it without bringing it up to code, up to energy code.
And arguably, wouldn't that be a wash when we currently don't have air conditioning? So now we're adding an energy cost that doesn't exist that would offset the heat savings that you would potentially save. So from an energy standpoint, you'd actually be spending more by upgrading it. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have air conditioning. I believe we should, but if we're going to be factual, we're actually going to be spending more on energy, which is okay. By doing this.
My experience is that that's not true. It'll be just about a wash. So you don't have air conditioning now.
Yeah.
You're overheating, you're heating the outdoor by a mile. You're going to add air conditioning later on, but the way that the systems work are so infinitely more efficient than what you have right now. And
To my point, it's a wash. It's not a savings, and I'm okay. And I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
you're right on that.
Yeah.
I think it is, and I think that's great
Yeah.
because we do need air conditioning. I'm not
Yeah.
saying we don't, but I
Yeah.
just want to be clear
Yeah.
that the
And just so air conditioning for school construction isn't just cooling. It's filtering out, it's filtering and conditioning air. It's making sure that you're not introducing humidification, pollens, all of those things are filtered out at the door or at the energy unit. And you are not bringing in, you're not exhausting all the air that's in the building and then reheating everything that's coming in. You're just doing enough just to bring in the oxygen is really what you're doing. Completely different type of system. And your heating plant is going to be infinitely more efficient. But since you don't currently have cooling, your loads will go up. If you opt to put on a solar array on this building, that you may actually start working your way toward net zero. You'd be surprised how efficient those systems are. There's been a couple of net zero buildings. That wasn't one of the tasks here to make you net zero, but if you guys wanted to actually look at that, that's something you can look at. Net zero meaning that you're netting out zero cost for the energy in your building.
How many of our buildings have solar now?
I think you have one small array, right?
Small array
One
at
at
Valley
Brownstone,
View.
one at
Yeah.
Brownstone and Valley.
Brownstone.
Yeah.
Valley View is very small.
I mean, we put a megawatt on top of Region 7, so it's doing pretty good. You know, one of the things that they don't talk about with the solar is it also shades your roof. So that's another, it helps your cooling a lot. But again, that's a separate grant. You want to keep it separate. So, all right. So the point of this is that, you know, it's not really just an aesthetic thing that this envelope, you know, needs to be repointed and, you know, needs some repair. But it's also, super energy inefficient. There's no, redeeming quality to this. So the way to fix this is to repoint on the outside and then build another wall on the interior. We'll have to do some calculations, figure out where the dew point lands, you know, and we're gonna gotta get that water out of that cavity, but that's the way to attack this thing. So there's money there for that. And it's at both schools. It's at Valley View and Gildersleeve. Both of these walls have that issue. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So on and on, you know, you go around the school, you can see there's issues with expansion joints. There's issues there's really bad cracking there. And we could probably just eliminate that down the road. There's a lot of brick repair that actually has structural brick repair that has to happen. The roofs are in a little bit of trouble. This definitely needs to be replaced. You'll see in the report, we consider them fair, just because there's kids working in there and living in there and they're getting by there, but they're going to fail. And they're not efficient. So,
Like, can I ask a quick?
Of course.
What is it? Excellent, very good, fair. What is fair? I'll take a Lakers scale. What?
no, it's how many useful years you have left. You know, are you on borrowed time? So if we say poor, you're on borrowed time. So fair and good is, you know, 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years. Yeah. Yeah. Before you guys are up there, you know, full time patching this thing, and it's just degrading to a, you know.
I'll tell you a thing or two.
Yeah, you're already there, but he's managing it. You know, it's to a cost, you know. So right here, so this is really just the assessment. So the primary surface brick, it's good condition. It's not failing. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's keeping the outside out and the inside in, but it's not doing it efficiently. So you get a good. Insulation is assumed good. I'm assuming that there's no insulation in there, but so it can't really fail. So all through your report, you'll see us going through and grading the conditions of the roof, the enclosures, doors, windows, skin, HVAC systems.
Is that building cinder block with brick face, or is it, is that?
Yeah,
what
yep,
that is?
yep.
Do we know if the cinder block is, they're hollow? There's no, when you drill a hole, you never drill a styrofoam in the building?
But we drill through most of the, not the mortar joints, but the block itself, because it's a whole lot.
Yeah, nothing's coming out.
Yeah, and the dew point's gonna be in the bad spot there, so we're gonna have to. Yeah. So we followed with Gordian on the prioritization of the fixes. Okay, what has to get fixed first, and how do you work it? So if you look at these, you'll see right here is the mechanical system is the highest priority, along with the lighting system, the low voltage, and the site all need the more immediate attention. And the reason that these charts are important is because this is the go, no go. If I tell you, all right, you really have to prioritize your mechanical system, and you have to prioritize your lighting system. You guys are now going to go and spend, you know, $4 to $5 million to replace those things. Now you're all in. You're almost going to have to do everything else, because I've seen this scenario play out in other districts before. It's like, we just put in all new floors in the building. We got to keep the building, but it's $10 million cheaper to build another one. So this is the go, no go scenario right here. So really pay close attention. All of these buildings, the priority is the operations of the building, the mechanical systems, the lighting. That's really what needs to be replaced. That's your go, no go. Are we going to commit to those? Then we're doing CIPs, or we're doing a renovate is new in the building. So you'll see how the math works with those. So this was, we included these in tonight's report just to show you where Gordian had everything. So for Gildersleeve, they were also concerned with the exterior shell of the building. Their cost was way off, but I think what they were going to do is come in there and power wash it and do some repairs to the joints. Repoint the building a little bit and do the structural repairs on that one failing part. what I don't think they really addressed is the efficiency of the envelope. So, yeah, you can go through and repair your envelope, but it's the same envelope when you're done. It's just, circa 1960 structurally the same. So, second, they had, the same, concerns with the grounds, which is, we need to really get the water off or we just freeze the ground, which was working pretty good the other day. So we got to get the water away from that foundation. It's bringing a lot of moisture into the building. Moisture is humidity. Humidity is energy. So got to get it out of there. There's a lot of code violations in the building. This one right here is actually, the state will actually pay you for this one. So that's good. You'll see we've got money set aside that the state will actually reimburse your heating and cooling system, your shell, your plumbing. These numbers, were out, on our CIP. We used their numbers, but we escalated them to the cost when we were going to actually do the work. Okay. Valley View, 39,708 square feet. 1953, with additions in 58 and 92. Currently grades pre-K to 1. It's obviously a little bit of an older building. It's showing its age in a lot of locations. There's the floor plan that we worked off of when we did the additions, for the project, that went and failed referendum. We were eliminating a lot of the facades so that we could get around the issue of the exterior envelope. We figured we're going to have to improve them anyway. Let's rebuild them. These classrooms are too small, but we could, per the ed spec, the classrooms needed to be bigger for best practice, and for the number of students per square foot in the classrooms. So we pulled this wall out here and we rebuilt. It was a brand new, R30 wall instead of an R2 or R3 wall. So that was one of the things we did. So it's another strategy. If you decide to improve Gildersleeve instead of this building, it's a strategy we could use there too. Yeah. So we went around, did very similar documentation. There's a lot of deteriorated conditions on the exterior of this building. There's a lot of EIFS on this building. That's all got to go. It's all almost failure or imminently fail, and you can see your masonry all needs to be repointed.
How many classrooms did you show on that?
Can you go back? Can you go back to the, I'm sorry, the floor plan right here. 13. I get that.
Gildersleeve offhand?
Can you back up to Gildersleeve floor plan?
I don't know if it shows. The Gildersleeve offhand. No, I know. And there's other spaces we could technically, like you just said.
26, including the,
Under the configurations that we have, that's basically what you're showing, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so, all right, next one more. So some photographs of interest. The parking lot's in really bad shape. I think we talked about that in either configuration. We want to actually change the traffic flow of the building. But it's horribly deteriorated anyway. That's a maintenance item, not reimbursable. We could probably get a little bit of money for handicap accessibility on that site. Inaccessible playground. We'd have to figure out a way to get students up there. Deterioration throughout interior and exterior walls, flooring, just dated and old finishes throughout the building.
I understand why parking lot repair would be considered maintenance, but
Yep.
if you were trying to reconfigure your parking lot to be safer and more accessible, would you then
Yep.
become eligible for some kind of reimbursement?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. If we were to just go in there and just patch it and repair as it is, nothing. Unless we said, well, we need 5 handicap spots, so we would get a little bit prorated. But if we're reconfiguring and calling it a life safety issue, we would have a really good argument.
think
I
you
would-
make that argument at any.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say Gildersleeve.
Traffic patterns, bus loops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drop off the problem in all 3 schools.
Yep.
I think you can make a very compelling argument.
We could make a very
Safety
compelling
is
argument. Yeah, the trick is we call it eligible when we make the grant application and let them come back and fight with us, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yes, sir.
you also talk about the multi-purpose room slash gym and what we had talked about. It's not a gym. It's not like, it's a space that we have PE and call it
Yep.
gym, but it's not like a basketball court. It's multi-purpose space with a.
Right. Can you- yep.
Where are you talking, Dr. Bratton?
Valley View. Yeah, so
My
the,
kids were
the,
lied to. They played basketball in there.
Yeah, and those little
Yeah, they
rollout
take-
basketballs.
yeah, I mean, it's, if we were to, I think what we actually did it, we took off the platform. We put a new platform back here and we just fit a middle school court in there, but we didn't have the runoff. So, kids are gonna be splatting into the walls a little bit, but, it doesn't really fit. But we did, to increase the size of it, what we did there, since we already had the trusses and the exterior walls and everything set in place, we just knocked down in the referendum package, we took this platform off. We did a small addition back here so that we still had a platform, but we had a much larger play space. So you could actually do 2 stations there, which is the problem right now. It's just,
Put a basketball court there.
you could put a basketball court there. Right. One of the other things we talked about, if this school got bigger, is taking this cafeteria would have to get bigger because it wouldn't be big enough with the more students, was turning this into a multi-purpose room and then building a bigger cafeteria. So that, and this would be a good size cafeteria for this building. And the cheapest square footage you can build is a gym because it's 4 walls and a court, so that's one approach that we could take to be efficient with the dollars. This is where the dollars defer. When I say it's $750 a square foot, then when you get the ed spec, you start to become clever. All right, I need a full size gym with a full high school size court. That's one thing. A multi-purpose room is a completely different thing. So, okay. Did that answer? Yep. Okay. Summary findings, again, this brings us to the same similar conclusion that the mechanical, electrical, low voltage systems and the site are problems here. They need investment. And so when you make this initial investment, now you bought the school. So you got to figure out, the rest of your reimbursement. What is how do I best spend our local dollar on this building is what this comes down to, because those systems are failing and you're going to need to replace them.
So would you say
So-
this is in fair condition as well? Is that what you would label this? Would you categorize Valley View like fair as in Gildersleeve?
They're fair because they're operating.
Okay,
Yeah.
but they're comparable of,
Both systems need to be replaced,
right,
repaired. Neither of them are efficient at all.
Mhm.
They require a lot of maintenance, and they're heating only. The site, yeah. And
So you're saying that they're both on the same 5 years, need something done?
Yep. Correct. Yeah, that's like the immediate need. And there's a lot of money going out the windows on those systems. So the Gordian looked at Valley View. They had the same issue as us with the shell. They, again, I believe were worried about mold in the shell and the structural components of the shell. I'm also worried about that, but I'm also worried just about the energy loss through that shell. Safety and code. There's a lot of inaccessible programs and issues in that building. And then they spread out the plumbing HVAC this way, which makes some sense because you want to design your HVAC system based on the efficiency of your shell. That's just kind of the way we do hockey arenas in our office. First thing you do is you fix the shell, then you do your ice refrigeration system, and then you do your HVAC. You kind of do it in order. You can't put in you end up having to way oversize the HVAC system if your shell is just inadequate.
Mike, does this facility have any AC? Currently,
There's some spaces.
the
not a real system?
library.
No.
Their windows.
Yeah.
window units, yeah,
Rooftop and windows.
The library.
The library.
Library administration.
and the
I'm
administration.
just trying to get a handle on it. I don't.
Yeah.
Window knockers, the rest of it.
Yeah, they're window rattlers in the admin area. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they all huddle in there in the summer, right? Okay, so Brownstone. 61,799 square feet, original construction 1931, additions 55, 66, 92. Condition, overall condition, fair to good. There's that's the lower level layout right there. We didn't include all the levels, but we've got them. One of the things we talked about, because you remember, big circle and then reimbursable circle. Almost all of this square footage, you basically got to cut this building by 50% if you're going to have limited grades in here. So we were talking to the state about finding a firewall and saying all of this is owned by the town and this is the school on this side of the firewall. And they were just like, just make sure you're not crossing streams and have this boiler room taking care of both the town side and the school side, because we're not going to reimburse you if you do that. And their auditors are mean. They're like the IRS of school construction. So.
And Mike, I hate to keep calling out square footage, but it's jumping around so much. It originally was 76,000 the other night now, and then originally tonight it was 67, and now we're down to 61.2, only because we're jumping all over the place. I'm just making sure you didn't back out some of the square footage for something. I'm trying to get I don't see how we can be jumping around that much. That's all.
Okay, nope, I will fix that and make sure that I have that cleaned up for you next week.
The as-built.
So we're assuming it's 61,000. And if there were three grades in that school, what would we need at that school?
3, 4, 5.
No. I meant square footage.
Oh, if it's 3, 4, 5,
Yeah, at that age, you have.
that would be
formula for square footage.
that would be 50,000. No,
No,
30.
42.
you give us the
40.
numbers, we'll calculate it.
42,000 is what you.
I had it on a piece of paper, actually.
Matrix.
Okay, 42,000, so
42,636.
Oh, it's
42,630.
in my hand.
So essentially that school's.
37,500 square feet.
Saying 42, you're saying
Well,
37.
I'm looking at at an old cost.
Okay.
About 20,000 overbill. What's the auditorium square footage? Anybody know?
25,000.
Mike, I'm showing a total square footage of that building, and I could be off here,
No,
of 76.
76.
52.
Yeah,
Right.
76,
That's what I'm
452 with the
I'm
3
just trying to-
additions.
I'll clean it up.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep.
We'll give you the additions. It might be one you're missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sounds like we would maybe have 20,000 too much in that building if we were to go for a full renovation for reimbursement. Something.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just.
But yeah, strategically, the idea here would be to subdivide the building.
Yep.
This becomes town, this becomes school. We renovate this side and that side gets turned over to the town to do.
It's worth saying too, Mike, I think to your point that whether you're doing a full renovation or whether you're just picking and choosing. How much square footage you have in the building will impact the rate of reimbursement either way. So
Yeah.
whether you're looking for reimbursement on your roof or your HVAC, or you're looking for reimbursement on the full renovation, that percentage is impacted by the square footage.
Yeah, that's why I want to get a hand, unless it's like the basement, I guess, maybe that would be different. If we pull basement square, I'm not sure if that encompasses basement square footage, because that's easy to just.
It encompasses all the square footage of the facility, and that's why there was the plan that was considered that carved up the building.
Okay, and I'm
That's
only asking
correct.
this because I wasn't present for those meetings, and
Yeah.
what I'd want to know is what's the square footage of the basement, for example? And is that 15,000 out of the 20?
Yeah.
That sort of
Yeah.
thing. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get a good.
I totally understand. Yeah. No,
That could be a major problem moving
Yep.
forward. It could easily be.
Yeah. It's possible we did a calculation that showed up on that number where we clipped off, we clipped off this and we clipped off this and did the calculation. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? This
Yeah.
is years later, you're going back through it. I'm
Right.
not trying to call you out.
No,
Just
no,
get a
This is a
first-
discussion. I'm good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were trying to carve this up the best way we could to get the most money for you guys that we could. That was exactly what we were trying to do.
Thank
We actually had a high level meeting with the state at my office. We all came down and we basically presented the carving up of this school to the state. They said it's not something we normally do, but but we're gonna allow you to do it because they like the consolidation, they like the direction we were going in. But they gave us Michelle gave us fair warning. Make sure what's on your side is on your side, and so they wanted to make sure that we were being, they don't like to reimburse, that, you know, like, if you look at the reimbursement eligible and ineligible stuff, this is how deep of a dive they take. Auditorium, a regular auditorium in a high school will only be reimbursed at 50% of the rate. Because they know that town functions happen there. A natatorium will be 50%. Bleachers in a gym will be 50%. All of there's a lot of things that they.
Can I ask a quick, are
Yep.
you saying 50% of the 50%?
That's correct.
Okay, so essentially the auditorium would have gained us 25% reimbursement at best.
Yeah.
Had we encompassed the auditorium anyway, so.
Yeah, they're
These are
gonna,
the things, so we
Yep.
could still theoretically leave the auditorium as part of our overall square footage, and we just don't get reimbursement for that dollar. And maybe not even.
I've never seen them do it that way.
Well, I'm saying, you've
Yeah.
never had a board with
Yeah.
me on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my thought is, we just maybe don't do renovation to that, we leave it as part of this. Don't we have that option?
No.
Okay, that's my message.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
renovate is new status.
Yep.
Requires you to renovate the entire building.
Okay.
If we just choose to include it as part of our square footage, but don't actually do any work in there, which is kind of what you're saying. That's,
Put some new.
well, that's a good twist to it. But we will get charged.
Could we? And our penalty.
Yeah,
would
we could.
Essentially be the 25% of that reimbursement anyway, correct?
Yeah, the way the auditors do it is they take the overall square footage and they prorate.
Okay.
So it doesn't wash
might
that
be
way.
better, because if they're gonna do it that way. I was already down to 25% of the auditorium. If
Yeah.
I get 50%, we
Yeah.
just prorate.
I mean,
it
if that's an extra 5,000 square feet or if that's an extra 10% of the building,
Yeah.
they're gonna take their 10% of the whole project. So,
And to be clear, that's where the facility study committee landed, as a reminder.
Yeah.
They had, the recommendation they put forward excluded the basement, but it did include the auditorium
Oh.
as part of their recommendation. And so the calculations that were made included the deductions that we would receive on reimbursement for the additional square footage that went above and beyond what was allowable.
Okay, I thought they took the auditorium in the basement out. You're
No,
saying
there were
they kept-
different calculations, there were
Okay.
different, they did it with excluding the auditorium and excluding the basement. And then they said, actually, it doesn't make sense to have to parade children out the front door and around and in to use the auditorium with the town's special permission. What would it cost to include that in? And what they landed on that went to the Board of Selectmen for consideration did include that square footage.
And I like that, basically what I'm getting at is I think no matter what we come up with for each building.
Yep.
And I would say I want to come up with a working scenario for all three buildings.
Yep.
And then we can decide what we feel is best for the community and move forward, but I think we have to talk about the elephant. We have a square footage issue here.
Yeah.
So moving forward, whether it means taking the basement out, I'll need to know what that square footage is. And maybe we are now leaving the auditorium, and I noticed the gymnasium stay. I wasn't part of any of that. I'm
Yes,
assuming
the
that's.
gymnasium was included.
Okay, so then.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see, what we come up with first.
yeah, I mean, that's why you saw 31AB
Yeah,
point two
Forget
three.
all those.
Right.
We're gonna got
Right.
three buildings. We've got three buildings.
No, it's-
three work
it's-
Scenarios, and we
Yep,
all talk about
yep.
those. two work
Yeah,
scenarios.
the bigger problem is not that we land on the right thing. The bigger problem is trying to explain something that's this complicated to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
I got faith in you.
Yeah, I know,
heard
I
you're
know.
worth the money.
I know. Okay, well, hopefully we're getting there. Hopefully we're getting there. All right, so, complicated little project here. We do get, because it's pre-1950, we do get a little bonus in square footage on this one. So that you'll see that show up, in the calculations.
In dollar amount or in square?
In square footage. So a lot of these schools look exactly the same from this vintage. They have really, really wide corridors. And the state knows that to knock those corridors down and try to get a square foot efficiency is $1 foolish. Because they're structural walls.
And
So,
the-
but the problem with this school is those walls, are deep and thick. And all doors in an accessible school have to have a push-pull clearance. I don't know if you know what that is, but a push-pull clearance is, you have to imagine someone in a wheelchair going to a door and pulling it open. You need to have 2 foot from the doorknob on the pull side of a door, and you have to have 1 foot on the push side of a door. Absolute requirement for the grant to be approved. These are basically little quarters to the doors. So we have to figure out how to do that, and it's a costly endeavor.
So my question would be, is there an exemption because of historic?
There is no exemption to ADA. As of today. As of today.
Out of the nice.
So you could go to the state and the state can give you, but federally,
No.
you can't. There's nothing you can do.
I do not in any way want to miss.
Right, got it. So we have to figure out a way, and the chances of those tiles containing lead paint is very high. They're perfectly safe the way they are right now because it's embedded in the tile itself. But once you start cutting it, it becomes a hazardous material situation. So just heads up.
And that's just in the main wing, correct, of that building?
Yeah, it's the second and the 2 top floors of this wing right here.
Okay, so just the front, the original 30,
right.
the 30.
The part that we're going to use for a school.
32.
Right. Yeah. Anytime you look at one of these schools, you have to imagine yourself in a wheelchair. This is a very, very difficult building for somebody in a wheelchair. All the bathrooms, the push-pull clearances, the accessibility to each floor. It's a tough building. There's a premium to that. Anyway. Defective and deteriorating materials. So if you look at this building from, the Masons like to say, you look at it from 30 feet, looks pretty good, right? That's what it says right in their specs. It looks good from 30 feet. It's good. But if you really look at this building, it's tiring. It's just structural bomb shelter, but it's deteriorating and it needs to be cleaned up and fixed. The floors are migrating moisture. The floor tiles need to be replaced. Some of it is just aged. Obviously the ceiling tiles got to go. There's flaking paint and things need to be repointed and just things like that occurred over time. I mean, if you walk in that lower level, you probably can't walk through that building without a hard hat. There's supposed to be a 6'5" minimum ceiling height
I
and
think it's 6'8".
Yeah.
6'8". You bring up a good point. If we aren't going to be using the basement square footage, how much would that drive the cost down to just use it as a basically obscure ductwork area and blah, blah, blah. We're done using it for kids.
sounds ideal, right?
Oh, I'm asking.
No, it sounds ideal and it is mostly ideal. The problem is we're now introducing it to be a mixed use building.
No, I'm saying we don't. We just use it as a maintenance room. It's now not square footage for children. It is one large maintenance area
For the school.
for the ductwork. It's now not
Oh.
a room. It's
Yeah, no, that,
so could we
Yeah.
get around it that way?
yeah, I've done that before.
Thank you. See, I knew we-
I've done that.
I heard
I've-
you had done
Yeah,
this. so
I've done that before. Yeah.
Interior.
Not in that area. My point is
So
not.
again,
in
you're
that-
talking about, yeah,
I went to school in that little cave back there. There's a lot of little quarters. There's an old tunnel too.
I think I played basketball in that gym. I have flashbacks from that. I used to be taller.
So could we do something to that effect to start to cut down?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options. I think from this 30,000-foot view we're at right now, we're looking at how much of it do we cut off, and then we'll figure out what do we do. You don't want to start introducing mixed use into this thing. It's almost going to be a ban, and you got to be really careful that it doesn't become storage. Because, I don't know how many of you guys are on the fire department, but
I don't
It's not
think it's a
good.
nice space anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Down in the basement.
yeah, if
I
it
would-
becomes building
that's what I
tunnels
was
and stuff
getting at.
like
I
that,
don't think it's a great space to give to
Yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
moving forward.
but it can't be part of the school.
that's the clarity piece, right? Like
It could
it
be
can't
chases.
it can't just be a school storage space, or it couldn't just
It
be.
can't be storage. It can be ductwork and it doesn't count. It's now not a room.
So in the basement of CV Jennings, which is an elementary school that I did down in New London, there's a gigantic crawl space, because it was built in a hill. And the state, so we put some access doors there because they were going to use it for, files and State came down there and they made us brick up the entire crawl space so that it was completely inaccessible.
Yeah.
So we would end up, if we were to do that, we would have to make it inaccessible. So we'd probably,
Sorry.
Be the
so
red-
you're gonna spend money in there to abandon it. It's not perfectly ideal. We can work around it. We'll figure out a way to do it, for sure. Um,
Can I just ask a quick question? Out of all
course.
three schools, what do you think right now is in the worst condition? I mean, just from a
it's,
professional
it's,
point of
it's
view.
either Gildersleeve or Valley View. It's,
Okay,
they're
Struggling.
struggling. So this one's a bomb shelter. It's just,
What it is.
Code nightmare.
it's an absolute code nightmare.
Yeah.
This one might be the most expensive one to renovate, however.
okay.
So, when we go down that Ed Spec tunnel, and dive down this building, there may be more ghosts in this building than the other ones, because the other ones are gonna come down with a bobcat, take those walls down like that. It's
That
nothing.
historic 20% you mentioned in the other meeting,
Yeah.
I'm not too worried. We're gonna get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, the other buildings, will come down really easy. That's why when we put together that referendum package for Valley View, I just said, well, just take out that front wall because it's gonna cost us more to make it, an efficient, high, insulated wall than it will be to just build a new one. So we just built a new one.
Right.
So, it's the steel frame there that's worth the money on both of those schools.
When they talk about efficiency and making buildings more efficient, and I get it, the R value, obviously the ceiling's the most important, to gain
Mhm.
dollar for dollar, and the walls are what they are.
Mhm.
In their calculation, do they ever back out the 500,000 and all of the energy spent on switching out something, and you may only have, for example, a $10,000 a year savings in your actual bill in savings? So do they count the actual cost of taking out? So like.
They
that
used to,
savings,
they used to,
Yeah,
they used to.
My point is, I have one of my buildings actually it was built in 1948, and it's got two Chevron 48 boilers in it.
Yep.
And they are very, very efficient, and I have them tested every year. My point is, the most efficient is to keep that going versus all the money you spend on something that we all know every new HVAC thing can't last more than, 20 years now? They're garbage.
Yep.
And
That's right.
Is that about right?
That's about right.
Yeah, my point is, so the most efficient is sometimes fixing some of what you have. And obviously we have a problem. We have no air conditioning. So we already have an animal that you're gonna have to, we got big problems. There's no, I'm
Yeah.
just talking on the heat end of it. but
Yeah.
Does anybody ever calculate what you throw away to gain a little bit?
We used to. Al Herring at the state used to review life cycle cost analysis of every school that we did. They did it for years and years and years and years. And then the state adopted the high performance building criteria, which is based on LEED standards. So now when you fill out the LEED checklist, you don't do the life cycle analysis anymore. So that's all they care about now.
So I think like in our case, I use Gildersleeve, for example, if you take the ceiling up to an R40 or whatever, replace the roof, I
Yep.
think that's the best bang for the buck. I mean,
No doubt about it.
most of your heat loss is straight up. We
Sure.
own the windows, I agree with you 100% there. I'm just not convinced dollar for dollar, and I just don't want to get us in trouble that I don't think you're gaining much by the wall. I'm just giving you a breakdown example,
Yeah.
But I think the other things were, the roof is.
Well, the thing to consider then, just, I don't mean to dive too deep into HVAC, it's not my ballywick, but the amount of moisture that comes through that wall is problematic. As well. And as you know, the biggest energy hog in any building is the dehumidification, period, bar none. And so those walls are leaking moisture like there's no tomorrow. Nowadays, because we do such tight buildings, we have to calculate where in that wall section the humidity lands so that it's not landing in the middle of the wall and you end up with mold. That's right after LEED came out, mold came out because we were building buildings too tight. So now we got HVAC systems and weep hole strategies and building vapor barrier strategies that accommodate for that. My father-in-law has a house that's 400 years old, and it's that old, and it's level, and there's not a piece of rot in it. It's because it breathes, but we can't have that nowadays in the modern energy code. Can't have that. So I get lectured by my mechanical engineers all the time. Okay. So again, you got from 30 feet. This looks beautiful, but if you really start to examine the situation, you're gonna put $15 million in the building. It's got to look nice at the end of the product. Otherwise, what did you spend your money on? And we spent most of it above the ceiling. But these little things kind of come out and haunt you. So we got to make sure that we take, we take care of rotted boards and make sure that this gets proper ventilation to get rid of growth. And yeah, I mean, you got that roof. It's a diamond in the rough right there.
What section is that on the right, bottom right?
This one,
Yeah,
that's the attic.
okay,
That's the attic space
Over the original building.
of the original building. Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Throw ductwork in there.
Yeah, you got.
Yeah, I'll go on a field trip.
We do it. All right, again, so we went through and we graded everything, and we use this basically as a framework with our cost estimators so that they knew what they were able to hone in on a square foot, a cost per square foot, for the renovation. And so that you had a working document that told you what you needed to attend to, under the CIP. And so we did the prioritization of work, which we reviewed Gordian, and we try to figure out a common ground. Really the mechanical, electrical, fire alarm, security, your infrastructure of the building really needs to be attended to. So, and once you commit, you're all in. And this was their strategy on Brownstone, was to attend to the HVAC, heating and cooling, and the life safety issues. There's a lot of code issues in this building just because of its age. They did things different. I guess kids were able to jump out of windows back in 1934 that we can't do anymore, or something like that. I don't know. The exterior shell is a high priority. But a lot of this stuff, again, is not reimbursable. And so when I did the cost estimating, you saw me put the escalation in, and then I took out what was and was not reimbursable by the state.
So, Mike, looks like,
I think this is the last one.
was that, so obviously this was years ago. This doesn't have the escalation we talked about.
No. Yeah,
so
you got to circle back to
It's about
my,
$8 million, and then we got to add whatever, 20%. But the safety, the 1.6, you're saying that's
reimbursable.
all reimbursable or just partial?
Yeah, if it's building code related or life safety related, the state will pay for it.
And then going to the HVAC, I heard you say in previous meetings, and now I'm gonna put you on the
Yep.
spot. We're looking at about 50% if we upgrade the systems. Is that what you're stating?
Yep.
All right, so I got about 800 in the first column, and then there's gonna be some of the other stuff. So we're talking not a lot of money on that chart.
I agree with you.
What's that? That's why I want to go
Oh,
through it
that
as a
chart,
group,
right.
right? So if you take 1.6 out for the safety, and we take 800,000 out for, so somebody punch in 7.9 million and start minusing 1.6, 800. How much of exterior shell do you get any, Mike? I think you said no.
No.
Okay, unless you're doing some sort of upgrade for energy in some way, which I don't believe we're going to be.
Maybe the windows.
The win, we did, well, on that building, I want to talk about that.
No, I
We
don't think
just
so.
did the majority of the windows in that building, and I'm not sure you took that into consideration, or if you have windows in that.
I
exterior.
no, I did notice that those were a lot of new windows in there.
So did you
Yep.
back them out or did you replace them?
Um,
I'm just curious. I'm not calling you out, and if you don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer. Yeah, not right now. I will
Yeah,
get. Yep. Yep.
So I'm just trying to get a handle on it. So
Yep.
I think that exterior number is gonna come way down because the building is majority brick and brownstone.
That number's gonna go up.
Now, when you take the windows out, the majority is brick and brownstone. You're gonna walk me through a few overhangs, and
Yep.
you're gonna walk me through
Yep.
what else you got.
Yep.
I'm curious, you know what I mean? That's what I want to see or
Right.
hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Follow me? So they're.
Yeah.
I took about 3 million out of the 8. You're down to 5. Is that about right?
This isn't, I'm showing you what Gordian came up with. When I escalated this,
You still need. to
can you go
escalate.
back?
Whatever number comes up,
Yep.
you need to escalate by about, is it 20? What number do you want to use as?
I don't know. I gotta go back to it and I'll let you know.
I was always, everybody was saying 20%. Maybe that's not an accurate number. I don't,
For escalation?
yeah,
Um,
maybe it isn't. I'm just asking.
it was closer to 45%, I believe. All right, so Brownstone was 10 million to the town and 2 million from the state.
How's that possible when 1.6 alone, I came up with more than 2.2, 1.6 alone, and then the HVAC, you're already over that. You're at 2.4. So something's not adding.
Yep.
I'm not
Yep.
calling you out.
Yep,
I'm
nope.
just.
Yep.
I'm not seeing the numbers adding up.
Yep.
So So what I want to do is we have a list what each building needs. I'm gonna want to go through these lists at some point. We're gonna figure out what needs to be done and what doesn't. And maybe we do go over the 50%. I think there's a potential to
Yep.
be going over, say, Gildersleeve, because we all know that was already slated to be closed. I'm assuming that one probably needs the most work, but we've made the decision based on square footage. We're leaning towards that one stays. So, but I still want to get a handle, personally want to get a handle on just each building, what we're actually doing, like the brownstone. Correct me, I know when I was on the Board of Ed, we replaced a bunch of windows. Since I was on the Board of Ed, there's been more windows. Maybe we still need more. I'm not saying I have all the answers here. I just want to get a handle on what we're actually doing.
Yep.
And that building has slate in the front. It's brownstone, it's brick.
Yeah.
What are we actually doing for the 1.4?
So-
That's what I
Yep.
want to know.
Yeah, so you saw there was, I don't know, 16 scenarios or so?
Yeah.
When we completed the analysis, the square foot analysis of each one, they decided a direction to go down. We came up with 3 scenarios that we professionally cost estimated that were 200 lines of analysis of replacing things. Brownstone didn't go through that. Brownstone went through the Gordian review. And then
So,
I'm trying to remember how else we did it. I mean, it's been a while now since we did it.
and Mike, you correct, so, I mean, I can just say this because it's reality. We're making a big decision for the town.
Yep.
And we're going to be either renovating to new if the cost bears out and it makes the most sense.
Yep.
And it could be on one building, it could be on both. The reality is I think as a group are probably going to close one building. And that leaves us with 4 facilities that have major deficiencies.
I get it.
Assume the 2 up here, obviously, we're just gonna do
Yep.
renovation, I think. I don't want to speak for anybody
Yep.
else. And then the other 2, we're going to have to really get into and figure out, okay, what are we doing at each facility and why? And then make the decision starting fresh now. So I understand all
Yep.
this, things may have changed. So the other thing
Yeah.
I'm struggling, why do we need an addition at Valley View if we were to keep it of 14,560 or whatever, when it's literally within a couple thousand square feet of the other?
So it'll be a reduced scope if Valley View stays on the plan and 2
No,
scope.
I know the reduced scope was that number. That 14,000 is just, if we were to keep that building, we still needed to add on to it now.
If that becomes a pre-K to 2 school,
Yes.
we have 400 students. It would need to be 50,000 square feet.
Yep.
And it is currently 39,000 square feet, which
So you have an addition.
we have to have an addition.
Right, so, but how come Valley View, or sorry, Gildersleeve? Are you saying Gildersleeve because it's 47, we don't need that addition because it has?
No, we would have a small addition.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, these are the things I
Yep.
need answers to.
Yep.
right?
The gym.
So in the numbers that we're going to be discussing over the
Yep.
few meetings.
That's correct. We haven't finished that yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a physical handle on it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we have, I tried to, what I was asked was to try to capture the existing conditions of the existing buildings and where we are. And I thought that the discussion needed to not only be about the physical plant, but how the state aids you in paying for it. So
No,
that's,
I thank you.
yeah.
I apologize I just don't know any of this and that's why.
yeah, no.
Truly,
Oh,
I want to handle it.
what did we do about 2 years together before everybody got,
Well, good news.
It
Our
takes a while.
numbers are down to like 3. We figure out what we got and then we're gonna talk about. So I think we can get.
Well, I think, and I haven't gone down this, but subdividing that building, it may be expensive.
Which one are you referring to?
Brownstone.
So if we eliminate the basement, and these are the questions. So if
Yeah.
the basement becomes, and I like this, ductwork, in the attic, I just saw you, and you said tonight you could do this ductwork. Boy, that makes it a lot easier to switch our building over to better air quality and air conditioning. And now you got 2 chases, top and bottom, which
Mhm.
is ideal for
Yep.
HVAC guys. And then we can eliminate that basement square footage. And then so what? Maybe we keep the auditorium on as a town and we just forfeit the 25% reimbursement. But those are the things that I'm gonna want to see.
Sure.
Or just that
Yep.
building. I'm not
Yep.
saying that's the building to stay.
Yep.
I
Yep.
need to get a handle on every single one. All I've heard is that's the only building that you probably don't need an addition. We're gonna be.
Definitely not. Right,
Okay,
right,
so
right.
we got that.
Yeah.
ironed out. At some point,
Yeah.
these are, and I don't think you're gonna have, at some point, and whether we start going line by line. Because there are some things that I don't want to do at some of these buildings, and and maybe I'm wrong, and somebody's gonna explain to me, no, we need to do it, Ben. But at some point, we have to get to the finish line. The finish line is gonna be going through each building, each scenario, how to make it function.
Yep.
For our school
Yep.
needs.
Yep.
It's the most important in my
Yep.
opinion, safety,
Yep.
air quality, no issue there, but I want to do it in the most efficient
Yeah.
way possible.
So what has to happen really to meet the criteria of renovate is new? In the end, is that it has to perform as a new building, meet the codes of a new building for 20 years. We show them that, and that it's cheaper than building a new building. Then we get renovated new status. And then they reimburse you on everything, because it's the sneaky little ineligibles that'll kill you on the alterations. You just. You get it. I know you get it. I've explained it. You get it.
Yep.
Yep. So I got a little bit of homework to do. We're continuing to work on the additional cost estimates for the 2 additional scenarios you gave us. We're hoping to have those next week. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna fine tooth comb the square footages, the anomalies that we have to make sure that I have it correct.
And if you could show me the auditorium square footage, if you can show me a scenario, because for us to even consider it, keeping it as a school, we need to have a scenario that.
Yep.
So if you could please show us the square footage of the basement, whether we lop it off, whether we repurpose it, and it can never be blah, blah, blah. And then you got, the problem with repurposing is, I agree with you, that you're gonna get into all the piping and all this stuff. And I'm not sure that's gonna be the most efficient. Maybe just closing it off would be better, but those are the numbers I'm gonna need to see for, if we can't propose something that functions to the town, then there's no point to be.
And it's
entertaining it.
already
So I-
decided for us.
What's that, Fred?
To your point. If there's proposals out there, if not, it's almost already decided for us, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
I
need
think
to-
that's a good idea.
We need to see these
Yeah.
numbers to know, okay.
If there's some creative solution that we can, that has not already been proposed, throw it
Like,
out there,
I've never
because
heard
then
anybody
the
say-
discussion's almost easy for us.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody say, just take the basement off it and figure out a way around it. And I think that is probably on the table. Because I've been in that basement, I got educated in that basement. I learned a lot down there, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not ideal square footage, even for a repurpose
So-
scenario, in my opinion.
We do still have to explain to the state that these spaces are pipe tunnels, and we're gonna close them off, and they're not square footage.
Bob will bring them there.
All right.
It won't be a problem.
Yeah, no,
There's not a
they're
single
tough.
Pipe tunnel that I haven't had to get into. That's the thing about those.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that, right? You can crawl Valley View with me next time. Don't want to do it. So Mike, I would just say, I know that I was with you on Monday. And I know that we had some great conversations. And I also know that our estimators were with us as well, and they were like, wow. Are you confident that it's next week, or you're gonna need more time? I'm concerned about being able to push to
Yeah.
next week to get some good numbers. Okay.
No, I'm not, that was it. Yeah, no, I agree with
Oh,
you. It's tight window to be accurate.
Then I could propose at the next meeting, we just go over all these numbers, and then that gives you another meeting. Because I really,
Yeah.
and I want everybody to, I just want to go through each time. I think we wouldn't be doing our job as a committee if there's something on here that we don't need, regardless of whatever it is. And if let's go through each one, then maybe somebody, but I need somebody to explain to me, and I'm not sure, like the classroom breakdown, what does it encompass? Do we get a new smart board, or is it just paint and tiles and new cabinets? I want to know that sort of thing.
Yep.
I want to know what product we're getting at the end for what dollar. I want to have the best outcome for our future generations. So in order for me to
Yep.
get there, I need to literally go through this list at some.
Yeah, so, just so you know, and we're gonna do that, but just, when we went through the scenarios with the cost estimators, and, Gilbane followed up by reviewing my work, then they reviewed Downs's work, and they came back to the same conclusion. As far as, technology, equipment, smart, all that kind of stuff, we put $1 per, $1 for, not $1 for, $1, a number per student. Yeah, so it was like $1,200 per student for technology, $2,500 per student for furniture. Pretty standard stuff that we do in all the schools. So that's kind of how we handled all that.
And that's where maybe that classroom breakdown came from. I'm just, or not.
Yeah, I mean, we gave them we gave them the ed spec. There's a full ed spec. I don't know if you have a copy of that.
Probably not.
That would be included in the estimates that you created, like when we were talking
Yeah.
about.
Right.
K-5 Valley View. I don't think that's.
Right.
It's
that's
not.
included
You're the
in
old
the
guardian.
number.
Right.
That's
Or Gordy of
separate.
mine.
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
We have
Whole
to-
different.
What I want to know, like,
Yeah.
so in the sightlines numbers, there's a classroom number, and I can't
Yes.
remember if it's like 26, 28 grand. What does that encompass? Are we getting new cabinets, ceiling tiles, paint? I don't know. I want to know.
yeah.
Those are the things I'm gonna want to know when I go through each. So when we're
Yeah.
weighing all these options, we can make an educated.
Yeah.
You know, what are we getting? So X. That's
I
different.
don't think
than
it's
your
anything in
square
the
foot.
Gordian report.
It's not, but but I've gone through that many times. I will I mean, you can sit with me and I can try to show you how they broke that up to get to those graphs that you saw.
What?
They've grouped them, you've looked at it and I've marked an awful lot up, so we haven't sat together. We could try to.
I want to do it here about it,
Okay.
only in a good, because I feel like the dialogue, we can all say, hey, that makes
It's a
sense.
lot.
Yeah, but you know what?
I've spent
Let's go.
weeks.
Yeah, hopefully we can streamline, because once we do one classroom, I have a comfort level personally. Say,
Yeah.
well, hey, that sounds great. We don't need to do every class.
Well, a lot of it, I'm gonna say I don't know because I don't work for Gordian and I didn't do that report.
But is this going to be in your scope moving? So when we're, pretend we are creating this,
Yep.
in my mind, this is a scope we want to create as a town, what we're going to get for our product, regardless of
Yep.
whether it's renovate to new, and you're going to have to explain to me what we get renovate to new
Sure.
in a classroom. And I want to know what we get under this scenario for this dollar.
Yep.
And I want to compare the two.
I could tell you that Gordian doesn't build any schools in the state of Connecticut. They don't apply for grants. They don't do what we do.
So are you saying you could create these numbers but haven't? Or you're saying?
We did it completely without their help. We did it the way we do it. I didn't wag the dog here. When I received an ed spec for Valley View for 700 students, I drew a floor plan. We laid out the materials, we did the wall sections, we did the roof, we specified everything. We sat down with the cost estimator and found out how much it would cost. I didn't do that with Gordian even. I don't even know their phone number.
So I guess let me simplify. So what I think at the end of this committee, there's going to be obviously we have big
Yep.
choices, and there may be two choices on the table.
Yep.
Renovate to new, I can see the benefit in many ways.
Yep.
And we're going to walk through those numbers, but it may just be cost prohibitive. We'll see.
Mhm.
And then we're back to the name of this committee. Strategic capital improvements. And
Mm-hmm.
if that is the case, well, I'll be damned if I'm not going to create the best product.
Yeah.
Within the numbers. And at the end of this, the outcome may be two scenarios to referendum, because we don't, if there's just one that, the voters have just overwhelmingly said 33 no, and I don't know if the number was the driver or what the driver, but there was a big no, that maybe it was the 30 years, maybe it was the type of financing. There could be so many different scenarios. But I feel we have to be prepared for everything. I don't want to fail as a committee. I want to make sure
I got you.
whatever we move forward with, it passes. I don't want there to be a fourth committee.
This is what I did. This is what I did with Gordian. So, I know that they went through and they did a CIP, and the CIP is a maintenance program to replace failing units throughout, and that's what their cost estimate is. That is not an alterations or renovation project, because I would not go through and just replace units in a system that's highly, highly inefficient. I would not do anything that they did. But what I did is I took Gordian's numbers one for one and I escalated it so that you could see what a maintenance plan would look like over the years. These are not renovation projects. These are maintenance projects.
Yeah.
And
But you did-
inside of their maintenance project, huh?
You did it to a higher level in your numbers, or a better level? I'm trying to-
No. So they didn't include escalation to the years that they were pushing it out to. And there was some years in 2022, we had a 14 or 17% escalation in materials that hasn't resettled yet.
Yeah.
So if you go back, I think it's one slide. All I did is I took Gordian's numbers. I applied escalation factors to the years that they proposed to do the work. That's all I did with their work.
Okay.
Their work is not renovation. Their work is
Repair.
it's a school dude.
I'm-
It's a school dude maintenance
Right.
project.
And I'm trying to get a handle on.
Yeah.
Because and I don't want to speak before we see all the numbers. Obviously, you're going to create numbers for each school, renovate to new, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Or maybe you're going to give us alteration. what are you bringing to us in a few meetings or a meeting or two?
So, we're looking at, we're looking at scenarios where we're gonna do a, Gildersleeve as a, I think that was a pre-K to 2. We're gonna right size it and we're gonna apply renovator's new number to that building. So we're gonna have the small addition, which will get a new bathroom renovate. Yeah. So in essence, a renovator's new in our economy in Connecticut is $750 a square foot construction cost plus soft costs on top of that. And then we'll look at anomalies. We'll look at that site needs to be drained. We're gonna we extend the parking lot. So that's about where that's gonna fall. And that, if you like that scenario, if that's a scenario you want us to go down that rabbit hole, then we ask the board to write an ed spec. We look at that ed spec. One of the problems with us, with these standardized schools of that age is, it doesn't lay out well for special ed. It doesn't lay out really well for specials. There's stuff that is in the ed spec that we have to make sure that we account for. Sometimes the classrooms are too small. That was the problem at Valley View, is the classrooms are too small. We use that to our advantage by moving the wall out. We got a 2-for-1. We made the classrooms bigger while improving the envelope. So there's anomalies. So we have to take the ed spec and then we have to apply it to the building. So the first thing is to see, all right, this is the neighborhood, $750 a square foot. That's about what it should cost. Then we get an ed spec and then we apply an actual cost estimate to. I wouldn't give you a $750 a square foot budget until you go to referendum with it. I would say, this is the scenario. This is about what I think it's going to cost. You guys say, all right, go cost estimate it. If I had to cost estimate 40 buildings, it would cost you guys a lot of money. So that's not the way we do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just running the numbers. So you could be at 35, 40 million, and then obviously the reimbursement.
That's right.
So you still could be at 20 million a building.
That's right.
For the renovate to new, you're still at 40 and you haven't touched the high school or the middle school.
Correct.
So I'm trying to get to the finish line. You're at $55 million. Let's just beat around the bush and, let's just talk about, when are we going to go over this list of what we actually need to do and get it down to a number that the taxpayers, if that's what you're telling me, I don't want to waste your time. If you're really saying you're going to come back in 2 weeks with a $50 billion scenario.
I am.
Okay.
I think I already kind of told you that.
Well, I'm glad
Yep.
we just got that out of the way.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think, Carl, I think at the next meeting, we need to go line by line and start figuring out what scenarios we're going to be looking at.
Again, you're looking at the Gordian report, which is a maintenance report, which is swapping out HVAC equipment 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Doesn't meet energy code. It's going to take you 20 years to do it. If that's the strategy you want to do, perfectly fine.
Strategy I want to do. I just think
Yep.
if we're looking at $50 million.
Yep.
And the taxpayers just overwhelmingly said absolutely not to 33, I think.
But I don't think that's what actually happened. I think there were many, many drivers that were the reasons why people said no,
What
as
do you
well
think the
as
drivers
social
were?
media.
What do you think the drivers? I'm curious, like what?
I think a lot of people, if we were gonna close Brownstone, I think that it's a historical building. People want to know what's going to be happening. I think adults were afraid what's gonna happen to their kids in a massive school. I don't think it was specifically just a cost issue. I think that there were many drivers, especially depending upon your age bracket in the community.
Yep, and I've spoken with a lot of the 55 and older community. And I've spoken to a lot, I've spoken to a lot of people. And what I heard overwhelmingly, you're right on the Brownstone. They all wanted to know what we were going to do with it. I think that was a big, important thing. I think no matter what we come up with, we're going to have to show everybody in Portland what we're going to do with whatever facility we close. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of, and I'm not going to call Mike out, but there's a lot of deficiencies in our town, and Mike's going to have to come up with some serious plans moving forward on all different things. I think if this becomes a $50 million referendum, we're dead on arrival and we're kidding ourselves. And you can call me out. I respect that. If you think I'm wrong, so be it. I don't believe that's the path forward. I believe 60-40, and had there not been a social media campaign, I think it would have been a 70-30. I think the social media campaign actually got more people passionate about the school system like myself, because I care so much about it and I want to see it succeed in the best manner possible. But it also has to be in a fiscally responsible way for our community. And I think we're running, if it's really $50 million, I think we as a group should start talking, and it can't just be me. I think at the end of the day, we can identify probably 28 million in fixing all of our deficiencies, and then we can see what kind of state reimbursement we're going to get. And I'm making that number up. I would like to go through the
But
numbers.
you're telling us this $50 million, if we did a renovate to new, that's not going to cost the town $50 million.
No, it would cost,
25.
25.
Yeah.
Okay.
but that doesn't,
Well, that was one of the problems.
no, you don't, no, hang on. The 50 million, so 40 was the renovate to new. And then you still have the high school, middle school. What's the reimbursement on that? Are you saying?
Right.
it's all
So,
the
I got,
same?
yeah, so I got a few other notes that, from that I wanted to make sure that, the information got out because there were questions that were asked, this and that, the other thing, so. Just for contemplation for you guys to discuss. So the first one is that, the language that went out in the referendum was that, you're going to appropriate $68 million for the renovation expansion of Valley View and authorize the issuance of bonds or notes in an amount not to exceed $68 million to finance the appropriation, or so much as may be necessary after deducting grants to be received for the project. There didn't seem to be any information on that, on what was going to be reimbursed by the state.
Correct.
So to Jen's point, it may get down to 25 for everything then, right?
I don't know.
So-
That's what I'm
And that
wondering.
number, I believe the residents might be,
I
that's why I
agree.
want to have this conversation.
But even
Yeah.
So-
being held up on a number is such a weird thing to me because
Yeah.
what we've been talking about since the beginning, I don't disagree with you, by the way, that the numbers were, but the big thing is that what we were really striving for is not to hurt the mill. And we already have a contribution to, we've already but had this budgeted contribution to a bond. And then it's weird to just pick a number and say we can't go past the number without, you had asked for numbers about a 20-year bond, which I think was smart, versus a 30-year bond and all that stuff, to get held up so early on some magic number that maybe some people in the town will vote for or not vote for, when truthfully, I also don't know what is that number that people would, it's the worry about raising a mill rate or excessively raising a mill rate. And I think that's what we have to figure out, is how much can we afford to that month, that contribution to, that we've already been contributing to. And so to me, it feels like, I don't disagree with you, but if it's not helpful, because these are all maintenance things, and I don't know, to me, it makes more sense to say, it's gonna be an expensive project, so if we can get the most bang for our buck and not go over as much as we can say that, what we're already contributing to some sort of bond rate, whether it's a 20-year, because I do think you're right. A lot of people, that idea of a 30-year bond rate did.
Yeah.
I think people that, you said that in the first meeting, and I don't disagree with you, that if we could figure out that balance, almost that's more important than the number you keep getting held up on, but to be honest.
No,
with
and
you.
honestly, the more you guys are talking, I'm feeling better over here because if it really does go down to these are all rough. If it really does go down to the 25, and then I do believe moving forward, we need to allocate that, give or take 3 million that we're already going to be budgeting for in the Board of Education, and maybe deduct a few of the items that you were going to spend anyway. That gets us down to a more palatable number. So, okay, we're good.
Well, yeah, so on that line, so one of the things,
Baby.
so one of the things that happened during all of that discussion is we filled out the grant application, right? And in the grant application, they want to know the eligible and ineligible costs, because that's what they're going to base their ask at the state bond council for. Contingency, which is part of that $66 million. In fact, 6 million of that $66 million is contingency. It's there for a reason. It's there for change orders. It's there for foreseen conditions. It's a standard across the industry. It's always there. The state looks at that as an ineligible cost until we spend it. So as we go through the change order process, it becomes an eligible cost. Now, when we put in the grant application, it showed that the town was going to pay $42 million, not $35 million. They based the tax is on the $42 million, not the $35 million. And I wrote a letter saying, you're going to get that money. It's just considered ineligible until we spend it. And if we don't spend it, you don't spend it. So
And if we do spend it, what do we get? About half that back? You'll take, I'm not,
Now you'll get 95% of it.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but,
Okay.
but you can, you know, it has to
Okay,
be.
that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, it has to become eligible through a change order process. It's like, it's a contingency. You're gonna spend it on, we're gonna upgrade turn the lights into a fully, digital light, you know, $10,000. Put the change order to the state, it's
It wouldn't go
eligible.
with the same reimbursement rate of whatever we were getting at 50%. It was going.
It's, so it becomes an eligible cost and then you get your reimbursement. So what I'm saying is that $6 million, when we reported it to the state, was considered 100% ineligible.
So give me two scenarios out of that 6 million. If we spent it,
If you spend the $6 million and it's all eligible costs, you get reimbursed your 50% on that. That's right.
so we would be adding 3 million to the building. If we didn't spend any of it, it just would be.
Yeah, you don't spend it. Right.
I'm just trying to.
Right. So that was kind of, and there was a lot going on there at the very, very end, but that was one of the scenarios that I was like, so
Flag that though, Mike, because I think that was a real problem in the last go around.
it was a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why it happened the way that it did, but our community needs to understand what the cost is and what the actual cost is to the community, and we just need to be aware that however that language goes.
Yeah.
To referendum next time, whether it's an explanatory text or whatever, that
Yeah.
we need to find a way to make sure that that's communicated in a crystal clear
Yeah.
fashion.
Yeah, the state
Part of
really
that was
went,
how bond council advertising.
Yeah.
The language go out, so there were some missed opportunities.
yeah.
I
So,
think to Jen's point, the town also wanted to know what we were gonna do with the other facilities. That was
Yes.
a big hiccup.
yeah, I got that.
If we can iron that into this in whatever, and I know Carl's gonna disagree with me. He's gonna say it's not our
It's not
decision,
this committee's job to do that.
That's true.
but it is.
It is not.
It is.
It
What
is
if we
not.
reuse it and rent it to Oak Hill, whatever building?
That's the town's job.
No, we're
Working on a school project then. We're not working on, that's my feeling to this. Maybe I'm.
We
wrong.
could at least acknowledge
We
that
can acknowledge that
that
it needs to be
that's
done. and
push to
there's
the
some options
selectmen
put out
that
there, but I think
it's part of the reason, you might be
I
right.
don't want
I
to
don't
fail.
care.
We don't want it
But
to
I
fail.
do
And
think
look at
that I
they're
have
all
a
here. They've been
possible.
coming. I mean, they're all here. So the positive thing, the one thing that I think we're all in agreement. The best hope is not only what will the project cost in reality to the town, even that doesn't matter. Like, I don't know what 25 million means to the town. I have no idea. I can't,
Right.
what does it mean? What is it
does that
gonna
mean for our
cost
mill
me?
rate? I don't know.
What is it gonna cost me? People
Right.
need to know.
Mhm.
And in an ideal world, now we're not closing 2 schools, we're closing 1. So hopefully the idea of a mega school, that's off the table. If the selectmen can, or work with the other committees, the land use committee, or whatever that's responsible for proposing ideas, again, maybe it's not our job, but I think the selectmen are more aware now of some of the issues. They're all here, they know the issues. In an ideal world, hopefully the selectmen are, when we propose something, they've all been to every meeting.
And-
They're really engaged, and in an ideal world, hopefully we present a unified vote, in a perfect world. I don't know if we will, but, and then they would present a unified vote to the town. That would be like the perfect world, because then we can communicate that. It didn't happen last time,
In a
but that
complete
would be,
manner like that. We're going to address the high school, middle school. I think.
and that was
I
a big
think we
thing
need
too.
To
Yeah.
Jen's point, what you're gonna do with facilities and, we have to address, we have a 20-year problem. Let's
Yes.
fix it. Let's
Yeah.
not
Right.
pretend and I think that honestly, I think.
And you're not gonna make
that was
everyone
the
happy,
big-
but
you're
we're doing the
probably
best we
right. You
can.
guys are probably right. At the dollar amount might not be as important as we knew we were ignoring another 10 million,
Yes,
and that really upset people.
it did.
From what I taught, it really.
And people
We're
wanna
going to
fix the
address
problem.
that, so-
They're annoyed that we've been ignoring problems.
And we're all neutral.
Yeah.
We're going to get to, we want to address all the issues. I want
Yeah.
this to pass. I truly, truly want
Yeah.
to be the guy out there. Say, let's get this to pass, but it's got to be, done. We have to address everything,
Right.
including what to do with the bill.
I'd like to say this. I think as a committee, as the chairman of this, what I would like to say is let Mike and Bryce do what they have to do with these numbers, which are, coming down with reimbursement money, the whole bottom line. We're gonna see the bottom number, correct?
Yep.
What you're saying, before we start getting into. Let's see what that number comes up.
I agree with you, because maybe
You know,
I don't need to
let's,
go.
Mike, if you need 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you've got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't move anywhere without.
Okay, I mean, we can't, we're dead in the water because you're right. The bottom line is, what are we spending here? And we're all over the place because we don't know. The best money I believe we could, and I'm gonna put my, neck out on a limb here, is if we're spending 20 million or 25 million or whatever, but we're getting $60 million worth of work, people have to understand that. If we're going in here and fixing rooftop units or replacing ones that are there, but we're not upgrading our HVAC system, where are we going?
ADA compliance.
We're gonna be back here to this town in 10 years and say, we need a lot more money. That's why I honestly feel, and I'm bringing this to you tonight, and you guys tell me what you want, but I think we need to let them work the numbers, work this project. Let's see what the best scenario is first. And then we say,
Agreed.
right, that's out, well, maybe it isn't. It is out of line or it isn't out of line.
Right.
Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely.
Just for everybody here?
Otherwise, we're all guessing.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
and we can go back and forth, and these guys are gonna be, I think we gotta give them their due time to do what you need to do. They were brought in here to do what they need to do for us, and they are gonna show us the biggest bang for our buck. And then if we don't like that, or if we say absolutely that's out the window, then I guess we go to that.
And you bring up a good point. So maybe at the end of this, to Carl's point, maybe there is gonna be 2 referendums. I'm just saying, because you bring up, it may be, we're getting, well, hear me out. We may be getting all of this value in reimbursements, and you may be right on that statement, Carl. I'm not taking that away. And that may be scenario A, and people can make the decision that may be the best scenario, and then if scenario B, well, you're not getting the same outcome. I can acknowledge that. I'm not saying a repair is better by any means. I'm not sitting up here at, all I'm stating is I want this to pass. I don't want this to go another year. I think, yeah.
We do.
So I think let's get the numbers. And let's keep an open mind. Let's pray everything,
Let's
and
see
find me all the reimbursement you can, Mike, including I want to know historic, find me some more reimbursements. All right, how's that, Mike?
Well, I think I did kind of find one.
Okay, see?
So, the other 2 things, and we don't have to talk about that because the night's getting late, but if you want to, I had some assumptions for the secondary school project, and I had, so this was a discussion that happened pre-referendum, but I think that everybody felt it was moving too fast, so it didn't come up, and it really wasn't the purview of the committee at the time, but I reached out to the state, and as I said, in the first week, the state reimburses temporary space. Something that you guys don't need, but if this was like any other school district in the state and we had to build swing space for the construction, the state would give you money for that.
Do they cover rent?
They cover rent.
So currently, the Board of Education doesn't own whatever school we choose to close. If the town rented in that space, would we get the reimbursement of that money? I'm just sorry, I gotta put it up.
No, it's good. No, they go so far as to say that they won't allow. So if you guys had a town employee that was gonna be the clerk of the works, they wouldn't pay your salary, but they would pay your overtime. They dive pretty deep. They've been doing this.
Know what's going on.
They do, but I did ask the state if we were going to be using, and the question was specifically Gildersleeve, because at the time that was the school that we were banning. I asked them if we were using Gildersleeve as the swing space for 2 school construction projects, would they pay for the demolition at the end of it? They said that you have to include it it would have to be in the ed spec, and it would have to be included as part of the. I don't
think we're demolishing Gildersleeve at this
Well,
point. We need to-
no.
If
If we, that would have been worth $2 million to you, out of the.
What if the swing space needed some repairs in the interim? Is there anything we could get?
Possibly.
I'm just putting it out there because whatever school we close, we're gonna use as a swing school, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Is there any reimbursement? I know, like
They're pretty slick.
But if you had portable classrooms coming in, they'd probably pay for all that. And there's
They
other
would.
costs. And
Yep.
What if we needed to do some cost to our swing space?
Possibly.
Why wouldn't it?
Possibly.
I'm asking.
Yep.
Because I'd love that because.
But I did ask the question about if this was swing, it's like, were you guys gonna throw in, because they loved so much that you guys were consolidating?
Yes.
I mean, this is the big push by the state. They're like, well, put it in the ed spec, put it in the grant application. I don't see why we wouldn't. So,
And
So that's
that
$2
would be
million.
reimbursable at the same rate.
that's
that
correct.
we are
Yep, and
with
because it becomes part of the project,
Right.
you know.
So, you want more?
Just one more. I'm sorry.
No.
Shut me off anytime you want.
I just don't want you.
I'm just trying to get as much information out to you guys
Yep.
between the weeks as I can.
So the swings, Mike, the swing space is reimbursable at a full dollar amount or at the 50% or at the same value?
It becomes an eligible cost and all eligible costs are reimbursed at your rate.
At the rate. Thank you, thank you.
Yep. So, the second one was, the CIP that for the secondary school, which was from the Gordian report, which in that case, it's still a maintenance project and it's still a legitimate, the systems there are legitimate, it's a legitimate CIP. It was a $13 million project. I looked at it. I felt that 6 million was eligible, 6.9 million was ineligible. So your local share is $10 million, the state share is $2.9 million, which you knew. That's how that worked. Now that CIP was extended out over 10 years. So if we de-escalate that and that become a bonded project in a short, do it all at once, I think that it knocks about $1.5 to $2 million off of the cost. So now it's an $8.5 million project at your full reimbursement rate. So there's $1 million right there. So I'm just throwing it out there that there are ways to play the game.
Yeah, we're gonna need every dollar.
So
Absolutely.
And keep in mind that the schools are proposing, the Board of Education is proposing in this year's capital request. Hopefully over the next several years as well, to start taking some bites out of those needs at the secondary schools that could reduce what would potentially need to be bonded.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we were able to do 2.5 million over the next. 3 years, it makes it a slightly more manageable attack on the rest of the needs. And I don't want to speak, but I did hear some good news at a, Charles, at a CABE workshop that the HVAC grant may be coming back, in which case we might be able to
That
take
right there,
advantage of
not-
that.
I believe it is.
And
Yep.
extend our dollars. So that was some good news.
big, yep.
And also that, if we do it this way, by the time we start paying the bond back, we have $1.8 million without touching the mill rate already baked in. Now, I don't know that will be cost neutral if we're gonna do a year bond. But that's a significant amount of money to start paying down the next note.
Right.
Yeah, single mobilization versus multiple mobilizations is going to save you a lot of money on that project. So if you know that you've got it scheduled in your budget,
Right.
it saves a lot of money.
So Mike, is
No.
next week for you for 2 weeks?
So if I can get 2 weeks, I'll take 2 weeks because I know that Downs will take the 2 weeks if that's okay. And I'm going to invite them if that's okay with you as well.
Perfect.
It's
I
good.
would like to make a recommendation
Yep.
to this committee, because I don't think we have anything really to, kind of at a standstill here until we get to seeing some numbers, some real numbers
Yep.
with reimbursement. Not that I'm against that, but I'm not. I'm just saying, let's get these numbers. Let's cancel next week's meeting. And unless anybody thinks that we need to be here next week, let's move on to, I don't even know what the date is.
Yeah, next week is the 30th.
It'll be February 6th.
Thursday, February.
This is not Super Bowl Monday. I don't work well on Super Bowl Monday.
You're good.
It's still Thursday.
Takes on that, people.
After that, this will be done and
Yeah.
then you can go into.
I would
That's
like to
routine.
recommend with the committee's agreement that we cancel next week's meeting and move on to Thursday. Is there any conflicts Thursday, the 6th? On the bedside, Charles? Nothing?
I believe Michelle has already handled reserving this room. duration of our- I don't, think it's a common space.
I can't make a motion, so I would like to just recommend that.
Just running some numbers over here, making sure. At some point, we're gonna have to
Yes.
go through this. If you think next week should be the week to just, and there may not be much on it. I have no problem showing up next week, going through it, getting a handle on it, but if everybody says, you know what, let's look at all the other numbers first, I have no issue. I can go either way. Bless you.
Sorry.
What's that?
I
Bob?
think we should give them the time to give us a number, and I think it's gonna be easier even to do that task.
Yep.
If we're working off a number.
I
Right
think-
now, we're just kind of,
Especially if we're changing some of the configuration of the schools, like if it says Gildersleeve bathrooms, that number might fluctuate a lot depending if we need to make them accessible for preschool and special ed and things. I think it might change too much where we could say, oh, no, these bathrooms are great, but really we need different things.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
That we cancel next week in lieu of getting cost estimates. The following week from.
I'll second that. I was.
Any discussion on that?
Jen's dead. She's trying to beat
That's my favorite.
Any discussion on that?
I think it's a good plan.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you. So we are canceling next week's meeting. The next meeting we will have will be on Thursday, the 6th. The next thing would be, what's that?
6 o'clock.
6
Yep.
o'clock.
They're all
Yep,
6,
6 o'clock. The next thing, any public comment?
Just, I want to say thank you all. I completely agree with almost everybody here. I mean, I think this is all about dollars and cents. What I did just whisper over here, or maybe not so whisper, but I'm whispering. I think and the board is like when I was one of the proponents all along, that we need to educate the public. And I think last go around, we didn't do that well. I'm listening to the presentation tonight, and I think just hearing what's involved in, just in basic, simple terms, what's involved with each of these buildings in terms of renovation and how the funding works and insulating the walls and roofs and HVAC and dehumidification, all that stuff. I think with that information and the fact that you are now, as in part of your conversation, speaking to that elephant that was in the room that we didn't speak to last time, which was what's it going to cost for the renovations here as well. It might be beneficial for this group to discuss whether at some point in time down the road, when you kind of come up with a decision, if it might be appropriate to do a public presentation of the auditorium and let everybody hear everything you went through, all the information that you gathered, help with that presentation. So people will finally feel like, yes, those are the pieces that we were concerned with. And I think that in itself would settle so many minds.
Agreed.
But I was looking at your charge, and it's not listed in there, but I don't think the fact that it doesn't say it doesn't mean you can't do it. Yeah, and I think it's food for thought. I would give it some consideration when you get done. Doing a presentation for the public might be the best thing you can do to put minds at ease and have people go to the vote understanding what they're looking at, whether they're in favor of it or not. They're clear on what they're looking at. That's just my opinion, but thank you guys for all you're doing.
Thank you. Anybody else, public?
And thank you all as well.
Anybody from Zoom? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.